Hi, and welcome to Extra Serving, an award-winning podcast by Nation's Restaurant News. I am your host, Holly Petre. Today, we're going to be talking about the recent report from the NRA. The State of the Industry report predicted that food service sales will almost hit $1 trillion this year. That's up 6.4% from the year prior, which exceeded predictions, largely due to menu price increases, which we're all very much aware of as consumers. Next, what happens when you ban unaccompanied children from restaurants? Well, one Chick-fil-A unit in Pennsylvania is doing just that, banning children under 16 from dining in without their parents due to raucous behavior. Will other chains follow? We'll talk about it. And celebrities are back in the food game. No, they're not franchising, but they are the stars of ad campaigns in what feels like a season with more celebrities than ever before. After a few years of silence on the marketing front due to COVID, brands are back and swinging hard with new celebrity ad campaigns. This week's guest is Local Kitchen's COO and co-founder Andrew Monday. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to hear this interview. And now it's time to introduce my two co-hosts.
I'm Sam Oches, Editor-in-Chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And I'm Leigh Anne Zinsmeister, Managing Editor of Nation's Restaurant News.
And now I'm going to turn it over to this week's advertiser. Texas Pete is taking its flavor on the road with convenient, easy-to-enjoy portion control packets. Whether it's a Texas Pete dip cup or sauce packet, your customers will be able to enjoy bold flavor for a better on-the-go dining experience. Anywhere, anytime. Ask your broker for the #1 portion control hot sauce or visit TexasPeteFoodService.com for more information. All right, guys, well, welcome back. Leigh Anne and I are in the same room finally, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Even though it creates all kinds of fun technical issues for recording a podcast, but who needs that?
Who needs that? I totally get that. Well, let's just dive right in, guys. I feel like we have a lot to talk about, and I feel like we're going to get a lot of talking done because there's some controversial topics in here. Shall we start with the most controversial?
Okay. We love controversy. When Holly puts something on my calendar at 9 a.m., I feel spicy. And I had a spicy week last week, too, so we're going to lose subscribers between these last two episodes. People are going to be over it. It's all right. I've also hopped up on at least 4 cups of coffee at the moment, so just the heart rate's going real fast.
Fun for us.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Okay, so Chick-fil-A, one Chick-fil-A unit, to be specific, is banning children under the age of 16 from dining in unaccompanied. They need a parent or a guardian or somebody who is an adult with them. I know both of you have a lot of thoughts about children in restaurants, so I will just let you guys take it away.
Well, yeah, I said Leigh Anne and I are going to be counterpoint on this subject because I think Leigh Anne hears no kids in a restaurant and hears angels singing somewhere. But look, let's just start with a basic fact here. You should not do this purely because it is bad optics. I mean, let's just say it that way. I understand why a restaurant might want to do something like this functionally, right? I've been to restaurants and bars before where children disrupt my experience. I had a favorite bar years ago that tried to ban kids after 7 p.m. and it did not go well, right? And I knew why they were doing it, right? I mean, they were trying to say, look, after 7 p.m., first off, kids should be in bed. But second off, you're trying to create a very laid back environment, and children are the opposite of laid back, right? So they ended up having to scrap that plan. One reason why something like this particular bar, it was problematic is it was a big warehousey place where it was very common for people, myself included, to take young children, babies, toddlers, because you're eager to go find a place to hang out where you're accepted with small children. Breweries and but the big bars that are in like warehouses, those became a really good spot to do that because they're loud anyway, and kids can run around their space. And look, people who don't like kids go somewhere else. Parents need a place, right? But again, going back to the reason you cannot actively say no children allowed at a certain time or without an adult or whatever is because it sounds super mean. You can't do that. Like, and I understand the spirit of it, but here we are talking about it, right? Like, this wouldn't have been a story if they had never announced to everybody no children without supervision. I think there's other ways around it, like, finding ways to engage the kids. Maybe there's a way to set up part of your restaurant with more family activities, maybe this is a Chick-fil-A, have somebody at the door guiding families to special seating area where you're free to be loud. I don't know the situation specifically. Raucous behavior and Chick-fil-A are not two terms that I ever would necessarily put together, so I don't know where this Chick-fil-A is or what kind of raucous behavior is happening there. But the last option you should ever choose if you're having a problem with raucous children is telling the children they're not allowed to be there, because parents are, you get the mama bear thing going on, right? Where it's just like, oh, you're not going to tell me I can't bring my child in here. You are going to have a PR crisis on your hands, and national podcasts are going to talk about you. So here we are. Anyway, okay, Leigh Anne, you go.
I don't think this is going to be the argument that you seem to be gearing up for.
Here we go. Come on, Leigh Anne, bring it.
With anything you just said, but I do want to clarify a couple of points on this story, which Holly wrote up for our website this week. The first of all is that they're banning unaccompanied children. So you can still bring your 6 and 4-year-olds to Chick-fil-A.
Good.
I will also just add that a part of the problem they're having is that they're down the street from some sort of trampoline park or activity place of some kind. And so I think the problem they're having is that parents are dropping off their older children at the trampoline park, and the kids are instead walking down the street to Chick-fil-A and causing trouble there, or going to the trampoline park and getting riled up as children do, and then going to Chick-fil-A and taking out that energy there. So just to clarify the specifics on the story. I don't disagree with you. I think kids are fine to be at Chick-fil-A. It's a Chick-fil-A. I don't go to Chick-fil-A if I'm looking for a nice, quiet dinner. I don't personally go to Chick-fil-A at all, but I go to quick service restaurants when I need a quick, cheap meal. And families with young children are part of the deal on that. And I understand that, even though I have cultivated a bit of a reputation as a woman in my 30s who doesn't want kids. That doesn't mean I never want to see children anywhere ever. Just to clarify some things.
Everybody was wondering, I know.
I think you guys paint me as some sort of villain on this topic. And while I feel strongly about not having children living in my home, I understand that they exist in the world. And I'm grateful for kids when they do things like sell me Girl Scout cookies. So anyway, slight tangent. But kids are good for some things, and kids should be allowed to go to Chick-fil-A.
Sounds like Leigh Anne and I need to talk some things out here on our podcast with thousands of people listening.
I also did just spend almost $50 on Girl Scout cookies that I bought from Sam's daughter. So
anybody needs Girl Scout cookies, shoot me an email.
We'll drop a link. No,
yeah, link in the show notes. Let's do it.
Oh, my first thought on the Chick-fil-A story was actually, and I don't know if this is still true. I don't know how universal this was, but when I was in high school, the Chick-fil-A in my hometown had a reputation for being a place that hired teenagers starting when they were 14. And so it was the first place that kids could go get a job if they needed one or wanted one. And so, again, I don't know if all Chick-fil-A's hire at 14. I don't know if they still do. It sounds illegal now that I'm saying it as an adult, but I don't know. But my first thought was, does this Chick-fil-A hire 14 and 15-year-olds? And how do they justify having a 14-year-old behind the counter, but that 14-year-old's best friend can't be in the restaurant unsupervised? Do the employees' parents have to accompany them to work now? I say that facetiously. I doubt it's true. Or do they only hire 16 and up, which I think is a more universal standard. So that was my first thought. I don't have a huge problem with the policy because of the unaccompanied detail, because of the specifics of the situation. I understand what you're saying about the optics. I will say all of the comments, or the majority of the comments on the Facebook post about this that the restaurant made were positive, were people saying, good for you, Chick-fil-A. So I don't know if those are locals who have seen the experience get out of hand, or if they're just, curmudgeons, but...
Yeah, and I think, and look, I don't know Clearly, I should have researched the story, but I don't know. Like, did they put a sign in the window, or did they how did this become a story? I guess is my question. Holly, you wrote this thing for us. How did this become a story?
There was a lengthy Facebook post about it from the restaurant directly, and then it just got picked up by people.
Okay, so that's my issue here, and I think that's my imparting wisdom to people is I just don't think the restaurant should announce these things. I mean, put a sign in the window or something and do damage control later if people go to Facebook to complain. But I guess my thing is like you're bringing attention to yourself by saying, "Hey, no kids allowed here," or unaccompanied, kids here. And it becomes a big thing because, again, like, I obviously I'm very clearly enmeshed in this life, and hearing that there's a trampoline park nearby, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this my neighborhood? I know a trampoline park next to Chick-fil-A, 5 minutes from my house. And I might do that thing with my kids. I might drop them off at the trampoline park, walk down to the Chick-fil-A. Now they're too young for that. But, point is like parents are passionate people, and we are super defensive of our children, of course. Again, the mama bear thing. And it's like, when you tell us what our kids can and cannot do, certainly within reason, I like to think I'm a reasonable adult and say, yeah, of course, I don't want my kids to be alone in Chick-fil-A, and I want them to behave, and I, expect I want the best for that business. But simultaneously, I think there's just that thing that you can, that itch that gets scratched, or that, I don't know what the analogy is here, but it's a little bit like a bomb going off, right? Because when parents who are defensive of their children and hear my kid can't go to Chick-fil-A by themselves until they're 16, I think they just get very emotional about it. So, yeah, that's my parting words. Don't announce it. Don't really do it. Like, find other ways around it, because you're just gonna, really anger some of your core customers, and it's gonna become a whole thing.
See, I think it's a great idea. I am the counterpoint, apparently, today. I think it's a wonderful idea. Mainly because, well, so the things that these kids were doing, they were stealing stuff. They were like loudly cursing. They were cursing at the workers when they would tell them to be quiet. I mean, it legitimately sounds like bad behavior, and it was coming from a lot of people.
And I know how against cursing you are, Holly.
I don't curse on this podcast, which is very important. Keep our ratings high.
We need a good rating.
Keep it clean.
And you're right. Like, lousy kids, like that sucks. And I know that probably a lot of people listening to this are like, yeah, I've got some of those people in my business too. I just think like there's got to be something else. Like there's got to be. And look, I know that not everybody has a budget to hire like a security or to put one of your employees on security detail or something like that. But like that, look for other ways to navigate around the situation besides saying you're not allowed, I guess. Because it sounds wrong. And when you say you're not allowed to the bad kids, unfortunately, you're also not allowing the good kids who could come in who are 15 and, want to be there without their parents.
How many 15-year-olds who are unaccompanied are good? I've seen them all at the mall, and I was one of those kids at the mall. And I was a mess. So, and apparently Sam is a mess dropping things. So,
I am.
I mean, I'm thinking adults shouldn't be unaccompanied either. I feel like there should be.
I'm always a mess when I'm inside a Chick-fil-A too. I don't even know what I dropped or where it went. Anyway, let's move on to our next subject.
I was a good kid, just for the record. Okay, we can move on.
we needed to know who.
It is a surprise to no one. Leigh Anne was a good kid. Like, shocker, Leigh Anne was a good kid. And Holly was a bad one. Shocker. All right, let's talk about the NRA report, because we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this, because I firmly believe that it was the right choice. Anyways, and that's the last word. So, haha.
Says the non-parent. Anyway, continue.
So anyways, the NRA released this report that food sales are going to get close to $1 trillion. I mean, that's an insane amount of money that we're talking about. And it's largely due to menu price increases. So, I mean, there's a reason for it, and it's probably going to come back down when menu prices come back down. But, I mean, that's an insane amount of money. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I think $1 trillion is a perfectly reasonable amount of money, Holly. Just kidding. I also think it's worth noting here that when you adjust these numbers for inflation, $1 trillion or $997 billion, I think is the number they're giving. is still below 2019 levels when you adjust for inflation, which also says a lot about the state of inflation right now, more than anything. But yeah, sales are going up, menu prices are going up. We knew that already. One of the fascinating things about this report to me every year is just to look back and see, how accurate was the previous year. And 2022's numbers far surpassed the NRA's predictions. Somewhat unsurprisingly, I mean, because these menu price increases and inflation have been ongoing for months and months. And so it makes sense that the numbers would exceed. So I think one of the most interesting things is that it is a number so close to $1 trillion that if things go the same way as they did last year, we could easily surpass that this year. And that'll be the interesting thing to watch a year from now. But I don't have any strong thoughts or opinions beyond that one way or the other on this.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, I think it's great to see the recovery from the restaurant industry, right? I mean, considering that the industry lost $200 billion in 2020, sales went down, collective sales went down $200 billion. And to see the industry recover to near 2019 levels adjusted for inflation is great. And the other thing I would cite is that yesterday the NPD group put out some data that said that in 2022, 18,000 either 18,000 restaurants opened or the restaurant industry grew by a net 18,000 locations. I need to double check that. But, point being is that we're back to growth. And I'm sure the NRA tempered their expectations because Leigh Anne, to your point, 2022 exceeded expectations. That you probably, they're probably tempering expectations. A, because it looks better if you exceed expectations than fall short of them, but also B, because it's just I think we've all learned. It's you never know what's around the corner. This year, we don't know if a recession's around the corner or not. Chance of that is actually going down, but still, I think it's. You don't hold your breath. So the headline here for sure is celebrating the recovery of the restaurant industry, getting back to, growth mode, opening restaurants again, growing in sales again. 1 trillion is just a staggering amount of money. But when you remember there's about 1 million restaurants in the United States, that makes sense. That adds up. The report, there's a lot more to the report, of course, besides how much sales the restaurant industry is going to do, which you can go to NRN.com and read our colleague Ron Ruggles' analysis of that study, because you can get more information than purely the sales number. But all around,
and because I don't think Sam read it, so he can't really give all the information that we need.
We also, it's worth noting, have some further analysis coming on this report in the coming days. So you can read the basic first thoughts on the website now, and then you can come back and we're going to dig deeper into the details on the website soon.
But if we can really sum it up here, 1 trillion, good.
Thank you for that.
That hard-hitting analysis.
Oh, man. See, feeling spicy again. I need to have a lot of coffee before this. More.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Well, now it's time to talk about Leanne and my favorite thing, which is celebrities.
I'm going to go ahead and mute myself for this one, if you guys don't mind.
We love celebrity here. And so do brands, apparently. A lot of brands. It seems like more than usual. I talked to Alicia Kelso for an upcoming episode of First Bite, and she said that it definitely is more than usual that we're seeing celebrities get involved with these brands, restaurants, companies, whatever we want to call them.
Yes,
You
to
know
all.
a lot of words, Holly.
Yeah, like a regular walking thesaurus.
Anyways, brands are getting involved in celebrities more and more. We've seen McDonald's famous orders starting in 2020. Those are continuing on even this year. We're seeing Jersey Mike's. We're seeing KFC. I mean, it seems endless. So what do you guys think?
One of the most interesting parts of this whole thing for me has been to watch which celebrities are chosen by which brands to be like the face of the brand. And even the way they talk about it is totally different. So KFC has revamped its whole marketing program in the last few years and has specifically said that they are targeting Gen Z everything that KFC does in the marketing arm is because they want those younger customers, which makes sense. Jersey Mike's, on the other hand, is specifically targeting older generations. They even, I don't know if this was meant to be shade at KFC, but they told Alicia specifically, a lot of brands are targeting Gen Z, and we are targeting Gen Z's parents. So they're working with Danny DeVito right now. And so it's just interesting to watch. I mean, none of the celebrities have like surprised me yet. Like, none of them have made me go, wow, I can't believe this person is working with this brand. I think they've all made a lot of sense, which is probably good. They're natural combinations. Of course, my favorite is, and I think we've talked about it before, the Ben Affleck Super Bowl ad with Dunkin', because that is just so organic, because there's not a person in this world, including Sam, who doesn't know that Ben Affleck is Dunkin's #1 fan. So
I know a little bit about Hollywood. Thank you very much.
He's heard of Ben Affleck, and
I've heard of Ben Affleck. Yeah, I've seen Armageddon. Come on.
So those are the most interesting pieces for me. Who are we targeting, and then who are we working with? And it's been a lot of fun to watch some of these campaigns unfold. Now, McDonald's has been back at it for like 3 years now, working with celebrities. And so we've seen the numbers on it. We've seen the huge success that these campaigns have brought McDonald's. And I think the other companies have too. And that's why they're all, working with celebrities now too. So it'll be interesting to see if this is a universal success for the restaurant industry. So I'm eager to watch it all play out.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on how you put these celebrities to use too. That I'm interested to see. I mean, and to sort of illustrate your point, KFC is Jack Harlow is the KFC celebrity, right? Okay, so I don't know much about him, but I know he's a young guy that sings, I think. Oh boy, I have officially become my father. But Jack Harlow, the Gen Z appeal, I guess, is there. But then Chili's last week enlisted Brian McKnight, who is, I forgot that name, but whoa, 20 years ago, sure. I mean, he had, I would say one hit wonder, but there are probably some Brian McKnight fans listening that are like, whoa, 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 whoa. But point is like there was a specific use of Brian McKnight in the Chili's campaign for that one song. Am I getting this right? Because I saw that Brian McKnight in Chili's, but I assume it's for that one very big song he had, and that's how they're using it for their campaign, which again, similar to the Jersey Mike situation, that has appeal to us 90s folk who remember that song and can connect to the, Brian McKnight to it. And I think Chili's is trying to, they're creating sort of a vibe there. They're trying to create sort of a humor to that. And Brian McKnight clearly in on the joke because he's participating in it as well. Whereas you could just slap Jack Harlow in your ad and the Gen Z is like, whoa, I must follow anything they do because Jack Harlow I'm a big fan of. And Danny DeVito with Jersey Mike's, again, nobody just sees Danny DeVito and thinks I got to go to Jersey Mike's. He has a shtick. He uses it in the ad for Jersey Mike's. It's funny. It connects to a certain type of person. McDonald's, I think, is doing it very uniquely with these famous meals because it's not just put these people in our ad. It's also go eat the food that they eat. And that clearly resonates because those things sell out like so fast. So I think the point is like having a celebrity in your ad, or should we call it now an influencer in your ad, because sometimes they're people who aren't necessarily famous for, a talent, more famous for the fact that they're famous, right? That's what I see influencers as being as. Yes, I am very, very old. But clearly if you have influence on social media or otherwise, it's like, you have a horde of people who will do anything, basically, you say, for better or worse. So brands are very wisely tapping into that. I think it makes a ton of sense. But again, it has to fit your brand. It has to fit the vibe you're trying to create, the marketing that you're trying to pull off. And clearly it has to mesh with the audience of the person that you have chosen. And those examples we've used so far, I think they all seem to really get it because I think all of those examples make a lot of sense.
Well, to bring another example in, there is the Chipotle partnering with TikTok influencers. This is not the first time Chipotle's partnered with a TikTok influencer. They partnered with the Corn Kid earlier. But they also have, I feel like you'd really like that video, Sam.
Oh,
I feel
I've
like
seen
you'd
it.
love
No, I've seen it. I'm shaking my head because I'm like 20 years from now, we're going to look back and be like, what was Corn Kid? You know, like, huh? It's just these little flashpoints in culture are so fascinating to me because they're just like real head scratchers. I don't know. Anyway.
But so they recently introduced a new quesadilla in partnership with two TikTok influencers who created this based on a menu hack. And now it's part of their menu. So, I mean, they're partnering with these people as a way to spread the message because they have so many millions of followers. But they're also saying, we're introducing this menu item based on what you guys have done on TikTok, that we're seeing these menu hacks, we're accepting them, and we're saying, let's just make it a part of our menu. So that's kind of the other part of the equation.
It's really smart. Yeah. And by the way, if you had told me, 8 years ago that Chipotle was going to do that, I'd be like, yeah, right. But they're embracing it. I mean, that's obviously they have a whole new regime there that's actually doing LTOs and things like that. But it's really smart. I think, part of the capturing the zeitgeist, the challenge for every marketer is to, appear like you get it, like you're in on the joke, like you're with it or whatever, like you don't want to come across as inauthentic or old or, like you don't know what you're talking about. You've got to be kind of in on it. And so what Chipotle is doing there is really smart because it's saying like, hey, we're cool too. Like you're doing this hack already. Like we're in on it. We'll play along. Cause remember, I think it was Chipotle that was like actively trying to shut some of this stuff down before. Even in the last couple of years. And that doesn't resonate with Gen Z, that, the TikTok generation, they don't like that. They want you to play along. And so here they are playing along. And I think they'll see they'll see the benefits of that.
Are you saying Chipotle's hip?
They're cool. They're down with it.
I felt like that was the word that was about to come out of your mouth. It just felt very natural to that moment that you were going to say Chipotle's hip. And
I'm trying to decide how much to lean into my old man pedigree because I'm actively seeing myself move in that direction. Anyway, I embrace it.
And you're not even that old.
Well, I had a couple of kids, settled down, got the white picket fence. I'm old now.
Do you really have a white picket fence?
No, it's a brown picket fence.
I don't know. I was curious.
It's a fence.
You have a fence to keep people out. Go away.
Yeah.
And keep your kids in, like a little cage.
I'm a curmudgeon. I only let them out to go to Chick-fil-A.
And run around wild.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to toss it over to my interview with Local Kitchen COO and co-founder Andrew Monday. But first, I'm going to thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
Texas Pete is taking its flavor on the road with convenient, easy-to-enjoy portion control packets. Whether it's a Texas Pete dip cup or sauce packet, your customers will be able to enjoy bold flavor for a better on-the-go dining experience. Anywhere, anytime. Ask your broker for the #1 portion control hot sauce or visit TexasPeteFoodService.com for more information. All right, so welcome to the podcast. I'd love to get started by just talking about what Local Kitchens is.
Yeah, so Local Kitchens is a micro food hall. So I think we've learned a lot about how to describe it over the years. Actually, I think one of my best tips is to ask your guests. I think we have so many different contexts in which we describe it. We describe it to investors. We describe it to friends and family. We describe it to guests. And it's different there are different ways to explain it for all those audiences. So I think if I was just at a party and someone asked me, how do you describe it? I go kind of the guest route and say, it's a store, it's a kitchen that has all of your favorite food in it. So we have 8 to 10 different brands in each kitchen. And on the merchant side, we do all the work. So we do all the cooking. We essentially get their recipes and then cook it exactly how they would have done it and how they do it in their brick and mortars today. So same recipes, same everything. And then we have pickup, we have delivery, and we have dine-in at most of our stores.
And so you have multiple local kitchens. I mean, that's pretty exciting.
We do. We have 10 now.
That's a big number for a food hall concept. I actually learned about you from a concept that's in local kitchens. So that was exciting. And then I read all about local kitchens, and it was really fun to hear your story. So can you kind of tell the story of how the concept came to be?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It was in the middle of the pandemic. John and I, our CEO, my co-founder, had worked together at DoorDash. I was the first employee there. He was there basically at the same time, probably started maybe even the same day. And we'd always wanted to work together, always wanted to start a company together. Finally, the stars aligned. We wanted to do something in food. I think the market in food is not only enormous, but impactful. So on so many dimensions, right? That's like how we gather. Today is Friday. How many people will get together tonight to eat together, right? That's probably the most common thing people will do tonight socially, is eat. And then you think of supply chain and waste and all these things, and it's just like one of the most impactful industries, if not the most, on the whole world, on so many different dimensions. So food is just an industry that I think sucks you in, and for a variety of reasons. And so we started talking to people who make the food, restaurant owners, and asking them what their pain points were. We actually heard a lot about expansion. And this was when ghost kitchens were kind of on the rise. And so we asked, why don't you use ghost kitchens? And we heard the same thing over and over, which was all these merchants saying, I will never open another brick and mortar. And we were like, but that's crazy. You have these units doing $3-4 million. They're printing cash. That seems great. But it's the day-to-day management of ordering, receiving, managing staff, managing GMs, minimum wage goes up, hourly workers, like all of these things that can be challenging, but also really rewarding. I think when someone has, let's say, 1 or 2 units and it's going really well, and they've been at it for 10 years, they're not always the most motivated to add stress to their life, So we realized that the ghost kitchen thing wasn't a great solution, because that solves the space and equipment problem, but that's not their problem. These are great businesses. They can get loans, they can get spaces. That's not it. It's the day-to-day management. So we told our first partner, Proposition Chicken, well, what if we did it all? We essentially said that's what we do, and then we had to go figure out how to do that, right? And that was kind of the start of it. And then the multi-brand angle really took off, where we launched Lafayette with, I think, 4 or 5 brands. And I'll never forget, moms and dads coming in with 3 different carts. So they would order on DoorDash and check out of 3 different carts. And I was like, why are you doing this? And they're like, well, we have kids, and the kids want this, and we want this. And I was like, and you're actually like doing that for your kids? And it was just like a no-brainer. And so we didn't even have a website yet. And I was like, hey, well, we should just have people order direct through our website. They can check out of 1 cart. We can make this super easy. And so that was really how kind of the second part of our concept launched, which was, multi-brand ordering, where you can get uniquely different items. You can get a melt burger, right? You can get a salad from Proposition Chicken, all from the same place at the same time. It was just like totally mind-blowing.
I mean, it's so interesting that you eliminate the no vote this way, because you can have so many different options at the same time. It's ordering for a big family, it's ordering for a big group of people, and you just have every option available from 10 different locations. I mean, it's crazy. What was it like developing that technology?
It's challenging, and it's ongoing. As you can imagine, with 8 to 10 brands, everything's harder. Purchasing's harder. FIFO in the walk-in is harder. Training is harder. What you display on the kitchen display system is harder, all that stuff. So you really have to take a first principles approach. You can't start this with an analogy based, oh, well, it's a restaurant, so we should schedule people like this other place, or we should train people like this other place. Because the reality is, sometimes, let's say between 2 and 5 p.m., there's maybe 30% of the staff you have at 6 p.m. And so you don't have 1 person on every station. You have 2 people who need to know, 5 stations, which means they know 10 different brands. And so part of it is it's really all around the technology that tells you how to cook, when to prep, all these things. We're really trying to create leverage for humans, right? I think humans will always be, I'm certain humans will always be at the core of what we do, both serving them and, working in the stores. And so we're trying to make it easier. I don't want someone doing math on the line, right? Trying to figure out some recipe. I want to tell them exactly what to prep and how much to prep so that they can focus on the care and the respect for the food that we need, right?
That's really interesting to think about, that you're not only developing technology to create this one cart system, but you're also developing technology to help line cooks figure out what they have to do for each individual restaurant. I mean, what is that like for the restaurants that come to you that say, we want to be in local kitchens, we want to grow with local kitchens? What do you say to them when you say, we have this technology, we can do this for you?
Yeah, I think they are all excited by it. And even when I interview people from other restaurants, some of the ones that have been around for 8 to 10 years and are public, they always say, oh, we really wanted to build that, or, we're trying to get that on our roadmap. And so it's not that we're like technology first. I would say we're guest first, but one of our operating principles is like being software minded. And so when we think about solving problems, we always have a software lens. And so the key, and I think where people can go awry, is creating tech for tech's sake, right? Creating like bells and whistles. And so when we build technology, we think a lot about outcomes. And those outcomes are everything that's on the P&L, labor, COGS, and even on the operational side with all of those metrics of quality. And so anytime someone has an idea, we're thinking, what metric does it move, and how quickly, and how will it do that?
I mean, it seems like your concept is built for Gen Z. I mean, it just seems primed and ready for Gen Z. Like, this is just something that Gen Z isn't like going inside restaurants anymore. They like doing curbside delivery. They like ordering from different brands. They like cool new brands. I mean, like, it just seems like you're primed and ready for this new generation of people who have all of this buying power.
I think that's right. I think hopefully everyone, we're lucky that we see anyone from a high school kid who's 14 to a grandparent who's, 85. And I think that's also a key point of technology, is it intuitive to the Gen Z person who, can even understand a touch screen, right? Who knows which way to swipe, and all that stuff's really intuitive to a really young person. But how do we also make that useful for a grandparent who might walk in and say, oh, I'm not good with tech, and we want to have the idea that, hey, you are good with tech, and it's not even about being good with tech. This is just easier. I actually was in our Cupertino store yesterday, and this woman, don't know her age, but definitely older. And naturally we have Apple Pay, and she had her card. She wasn't using Apple Pay, but she was using the reader on the card, right? And she was like, oh, and I can just like tap this thing and pay, right? And I was like, yeah, like exactly, you know what to do, right? So we really want to appeal to every generation, and it goes back to food, right? Everyone from babies to 90-year-olds are eating food. And so that's kind of how we think about it.
Everyone has to eat. That's an essential part of life, an essential part of your business. I mean, so you talk a lot about the guests and the fact that your business is focused on guest experience. How are you making the guest experience as great as it can be?
It's thinking about the value prop of what they want. So at the core for us, it's mix and match. So if you go deeply into that, that's just having food available, which is not trivial at all. So if we're running out of items, then the guests can't have exactly what they want, which is always a challenge for our company. The other side of it is really the hospitality approach of, as we always say, ask for forgiveness, not for permission. So if a guest comes in and has some special request, we're going to do it. And so whenever someone would ask me in the store, hey, can I do this? I'm always going to turn it back on them and say, what do you think you should do? And at some point that probably gets annoying, but I think as you push past that, I think people feel really empowered that they have this autonomy to do whatever it takes to make the guest happy. And then culturally, like I'm just talking about this nonstop in every company meeting, in everything, right? And so and now it's kind of working. We're compounding this, and you hear everyone else in the company talking about the guest. And one thing I'm probably known for is just correcting people. It could be any context, any meeting. If someone says the word customer, I will immediately jump in and say guest. It's just a completely different tone, right? Like if I came to your house, I'm a guest, take my shoes off, maybe you get me some water, all these things. Customer just feels a little more rough and transactional, and just not quite what we're after.
Well, and especially since you're talking about hospitality, it sounds like it needs to be something that's at the forefront, saying guest rather than customer.
Totally. It just puts people in that mindset, because I can't teach people all these little things: open the door, walk out to their car with them with their bags, do these things. Like it would be a list of 500 things. But if we create this culture idea of the guest and hospitality, then it kind of guides you to all those behaviors that are a really magical experience for the guest.
I find it so interesting to hear you say hospitality, because I don't think about that when I go to a food hall. But I'm really curious to hear. I'm based in New York, so I haven't been to local kitchens, but I'm curious to hear how you bring hospitality to the forefront at a place that is a food hall, where people don't essentially think that hospitality is involved.
Yeah, I think hospitality and like caring for a guest, it can even be in your technology. I think making food as close to the estimated time as possible, to me, that's hospitality, because someone's driving from work to pick up, and they have kids, and the kids are hungry, and all that stuff. And I think taking that amount of care is like a very hospitable thing to do. And so in everything we do, I think we're thinking about it. And then it really comes down to hiring. When you are interviewing people, understanding, do they live and breathe serving the guests? We have many, many great, this position we call a greeter. It's basically welcoming you in to the store. And these are the people that are smiling and just kind of doing whatever it takes. And then it's drawing a hard line with that. If someone is a great employee on many dimensions, maybe they show up on time, they do their functions right, they always clock in right, they do all these like fundamental things, but they're not kind of over the top friendly, then we have to find someone else. And so it's really like documenting a culture and then sticking to it, and being really relentless on that, especially at this stage, right? We're 10 stores on our way to 100 and 200 and 500 and 1,000. We're in the wet cement stage, right? And the cement will be drying more and more as we progress. And we want to be happy with the end state of the sculpture. And so it's on us to be really honest and really tough on, what exactly we're doing here.
Yeah, and that's so interesting that you brought up growth, because that was my next topic to go towards. As you grow, what are you looking for in restaurants that you partner with, but also what are you looking for in terms of unit count?
Yeah, it's a good question on partnerships, and I think we've learned a lot about it. I think partnership is the right word for it. So, for example, you might have a store or a partner who's in New York or San Francisco, right? And they have certain dishes and certain prices and all of that. And if you really want to be across the US and you want to be in a lot of different markets, you got to be flexible with that. We have an incredible partner in Orange Hummus, where we came up with some creations together and some different dishes for our Davis location, which was just a different market, and so that's an amazing partnership. And I'm, really happy to scale with Orange, because we have the same goals in mind. And it's just like very collaborative, right? And so our responsibility is to like bring the data and help people understand how markets are different and what's needed to expand, to make it really easy on partners, and then make some slight tweaks so that we can all be successful together. And so that's the collaboration that we really look for. And I think we got so lucky with our first partner, Proposition Chicken. I still message with their founder today, and he's even on our business, like asking questions of, what do you think about this and that? And, the other day we were texting about a kids menu, and it's just like a true partnership, right? It works really, really well.
And so what are your plans for growth of local kitchens? I mean, you're helping other restaurants grow, but what are your own plans of growth?
Yeah, we want to grow aggressively, right? We look at all of these well-known companies, and a lot of them are 30, 40 years old. And that's not really exciting to me or to us. We want to do it in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, right? So the mission of the company is to launch 2,000 stores. That was from day one what we said we wanted to do. And so, we want to grow a large company, $30-40 billion company. We look at, leaders like Chick-fil-A, and that's the stuff that we really admire, and so we want to follow in their footsteps and, eventually beat them. And so, we're lucky to have attracted a lot of people, partners, employees, and otherwise who are just as crazy and as intense as us. And they look at that goal and they say, yeah, why not? Why not us? So really looking to expand like as aggressively as possible.
Any short-term plans you could tell us about?
Yeah, we're in SoCal expanding, really excited about Texas and Colorado probably up next. And the good thing I think is that we started in California, which is one of the toughest places to operate. And so having so many profitable stores here gets us really excited, for the next stage where, as I'm told, it's easier everywhere else. So we'll see.
Much easier than California in other states. That's a tough state to handle. Lots of regulations.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
You did a great job. That was a good interview. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good.
You feel good?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel like the best ones we've had are we say something crazy, or how basically content works.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything was too crazy or too intense, but our concept's so different that it's like probably interesting to learn.
Yeah, and our audience is all restaurant operators, so that's who you're blasting this to. So it actually could be pretty useful for your business coming up. So hopefully it helps.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.